Have you ever played Mario Kart and you thought random items that are really powerful and specifically target the first player are really fun, but I really wish that items were even more overpowered? I wish I could have a green shell as the size of the entire lane. Well, ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in. This is Touring Karts. Now, initially I found this game because I really wanted to play a racing game in VR. While there's plenty of racing games on the store already that support VR, a lot of them are not my cup of tea. When it comes to VR, a lot of people tend to go for the realistic ones, you know, dirt rally, project cars, those sort. And while they can be fun, they're just not my cup of tea. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, I'm just saying I personally don't enjoy them. I've always enjoyed Mario Kart's more arcade-like approach to racing. So, when I saw that this game was basically a Mario Kart clone, I was ecstatic. I was more than happy to spend a couple bucks and have a great time. Unfortunately, as you can tell from the title, I'm gonna spend the next 20 minutes telling you why you should avoid this game at all costs. And I mean that. I have never in my life played a game that's more disorganized as this one. It almost feels like there's two developers for this game with vastly different ideas for what a kart racer should be. One of them just wanted to create a generic kart racer. Fairly flat tracks, no power-ups, just racing. The other one wanted to create a giant fucking battlefield with 600 items, 17 obstacles, thin tracks, way too many cars, all in a giant clusterfuck of a track. And since they couldn't decide which one to go with, they just decided to go with all of them. Now, it's going to be really difficult to explain everything that's wrong with this game in just a couple sentences. So I'm going to go ahead and structure this video in phases just to get my point across more accurately. I have spent roughly 3 hours playing this game, and that's both online and single player mode. And while that's not a lot of time spent with a game, I feel like it's enough to get a basic idea of how the rest of the game works. I've played all the maps, I've used almost every item, I've played online plenty of times, so I can definitely say I'm ready. So, strap yourselves in, get yourself popcorn, and let's dismantle this game. When it comes to a game like this, one of the most important aspects are the items. Say what you want about the tracks, characters, or even the music. You can't deny that the items make or break a Mario Kart game. There's a reason that the blue shell is so iconic. There has never been anything like it, and they're also fairly rare. There's nothing more satisfying than sending a blue shell and hearing player 1 absolutely lose his shit. It's part of the charm of the game. You can do completely fine, you can have no issues, and then out of nowhere, bam, you are dead. Welcome to third place. But at the same time, it can feel a little unbalanced. For the longest time, Mario Kart had this issue where a lot of items were objectively better than others. Now, I do feel like that Mario Kart 8 has a pretty good balance on items. So, how are the items in Touring Karts? Well, if you're watching this video, you already know the answer. They're fucking awful. And I don't mean awful as in they're bad. Quite the opposite. I mean they're too good. Imagine if every single item box contained blue shell in Mario Kart. I would say a good 90% of the items in this game either don't belong or should be heavily reduced in effectiveness. Let's go over the most basic one first, the green shell. Every Mario Kart game has one of these. What is Touring Kart's equivalent of that? What is their green shell? Well, Touring Kart has the chicken. They are so cute and cuddly! Now, it doesn't sound too bad on paper. It's just an item that you throw that flattens people in front of you. What's the issue? The issue is, it is way too big. One chicken takes up the entire track. And I'm not kidding, this isn't some kind of supersized chicken, this isn't a powered up chicken or anything. This is the standard throwing item in Touring Karts. You will get this item basically every third box. Just for the sake of being thorough, let's review some of the other items real quick. You have a giant hammer that flattens people next to you. You have a basic mushroom item that just makes you go fast. And you have a basic rocket launcher that's a lock-on red shell, essentially. Now, you're probably thinking I'm kind of blowing this whole thing out of proportion. Hey, wait a minute, Nadd. You said all the items were really overpowered, but to be perfectly honest, only 2 of those sound overpowered. The other items seem just fine. And yes, I can see why you would say that. That's because I've been withholding something really important until now. So, this game decided to do something revolutionary. And to be honest, I think it's a really cool idea with a lot of potential. This game has a mixing mechanic. Basically, once you get an item box, you can decide to hold on to your item. Say you get a banana and don't want to throw it right away. If you hold on to it and run into another item box, it will then combine with whatever item you were supposed to get and turn into a completely new item. Now, like I said, I think this is a really cool idea, and to be honest, I would love to see Nintendo try something like this. But as you can imagine, here's why mixing items is a really bad idea. First of all, way too many items. There's currently more than 45 different items in the game, counting all base items and combination items. This is way too much to keep track of. It's really easy to keep track of the items in Mario Kart, mostly because the list isn't all too big. If you sat me down and told me to come up with 45 different items in a racing game, I don't think I could, and I mean that honestly. I really don't think I can even think of 45 different unique effects. Problem number 2, some of the base items are way overpowered, so mixing it with another item makes them even stronger. So you thought a giant chicken that flattens everyone on the road was bad? How about a giant chicken that flattens everyone on the road, goes over all gaps, and goes through every wall in the game? Or how about a giant chicken that's just a bigger giant chicken? I'm not kidding. Why is this in the game? And yes, I'm gonna be harking on a chicken a lot because I hate this fucking item. Every single track in the game has hazards. Now this is again a really cool thing. Mario Kart did the same thing. You would see thwomps, fireballs, a giant Bowser punching the track. It's not really too uncommon and I kinda expected to see it in the game. And here, once again, Touring Karts goes way too far on the extreme end of the spectrum. Hazards on maps are everywhere, and they're huge, unavoidable, completely covering tracks to the point where you can't see anything. Now, I don't necessarily mind track hazards all that much, but I do think it becomes obnoxious when you have every single hazard on a map at the same time. You have never known chaos until you've played a map with 7 different hazards all at the same time, most of which are covering the entire tracks, with other players who are also throwing chickens at you that also cover the entire track. You will not be able to go 5 seconds without being hit by something. And that's even if you can attempt to dodge these obstacles with your cardboard cutout car. Yeah, we're transitioning to the car mechanics. Let's go into the driving. Now it's really hard to get this point across in videos, but let me give you an idea of how the cars handle themselves in touring karts. There's no weight to any of the vehicles. In fact, your car will constantly flip, tilt on the side, go upside down, or bump into other cars, careening you off to the side or flipping upside down. Oh god. These cars are made of paper and spit. I can't tell you how many times I bumped into something, only to then be tilted on my side and driving sideways for a good 5 minutes before the game corrected me and put me back in a horizontal position. I think the game does really well is the soundtrack. And yes, to be fair, it does sound suspiciously like a Mario ripoff, but at the same time I can't really blame it. It really does give off some kind of Mario Kart vibe. And that's a good thing. I'm not barking the game at all for this. Whoever came up with the main menu soundtrack did a really good job. What I can't praise are the sound effects, or specifically the narrator. I don't even know how to describe it. It honestly sounds like they couldn't get a voice actor, so they got Ted from the art department to do their voices for them. I've only been playing this game for 3 hours, but I'm already so sick of hearing them say, "Winter is coming," whenever you grab the ice item. Whoever recorded these lines is clearly not a professional voice actor. It really shows. And the more I tried listening to the sound effects, the more I'm convinced they straight up ripped them from other games. And now that I spent a decent amount of time listening to the announcer, I'm pretty sure the developers of the game don't quite speak English. Now I get it, that's a pretty controversial thing to say just based on the narrator. But you know what, I think it's best to go through some of the menus and have them prove my point for me. The banana, a classic, your enemies will slip like never. Warrior chicken, a big chicken that shoots explosive barrels in its path. What the hell, I thought this was a kid's game. Turbo Cola, an extra speed for a few seconds. We're not sure if this would pass doping control. Wait, do you mean doping? Did you make a doping joke in a kid's game? Frozen chicken. A giant chicken that's shitting ice? Really? Here it is. Oh my god, what's with the shit jokes? Frozen hammer. An extra long frozen hammer that will cause an instantaneous descent of the temperature of everyone who touches it. The winter is coming. And now, for the most confusing item description I have ever seen in my life, UFO area drink. This special drink will make appear to all the enemies nearby a small UFO able to make cars levitate. Wow. It's just, every part of this game feels rushed. Every part of this game feels incompetent. But the reason I made this video is because I still believe this game has potential. Believe it or not, even though this game has been a total shit show up till now, I still think there's a good game hidden beneath all of it. And now, to show that this is all in good faith, I will now spend the next 10 minutes or so going through every little change I think this game needs to do in order to be at least decent. So go ahead and get comfortable because we're actually doing this. I will review every single map and honestly tell you what needs to change. Let's start with the beginner track, Test Drive. Overall, this map isn't actually too bad, and is actually one of the better tracks in the game, but there's still a couple things that I think should be removed. Giant boomerang monster seems a little unnecessary, and the weird giant boxing kangaroo sandbag thing seems really out of place. A giant skeleton hand throwing bones also seems like it doesn't belong. And the giant UFO monkey is kinda overdoing it. Honestly, the tentacles aren't too bad, but they still seem a little out of place. But a giant ground-pounding Russian doll honestly seems fine to me. That one can stay. Overall, a decent map, just remove some of the obstacles, there's way too many. Pick one or two and stick with it. Next up, Spain. Now this is one of the first maps that kind of introduced the whole changing slopes, and honestly this is one of the cooler ones. I'd say keep the slope, I really like this, it really gives the game a Mario Kart 8 gravity type feel. But I do think it should just stay there permanently. I really don't like the fact that it keeps toggling between the two. But do keep it in the intro, I think it looks cool seeing it rise up from the floor. And you're going to be seeing this guy a lot, but I cannot stand the giant monkey who throws things at you at the finish line. Get rid of him. Overall, not many things, just keep the slant. Overall, there's not too many things on this map, it's actually one of the more reasonable ones. But get rid of the giant monkey and keep the slant permanently. Arab Emirates. I do actually kind of like the curved road here, but I think it should stay permanently instead of toggling between. It also tries to throw coconuts at you, but honestly this is one of the few times where it's not too bad because the coconuts aren't too big, so this one can stay. Next up, Australia. And spoiler alert, this is one of my least favorite maps in the game. These boomerang monsters could stay on this map since it's Australia and it kind of makes thematic sense, but I do think they should just limit it to this track exclusively. And they should get rid of everything else before they keep that one. This slope here near the start is probably the worst slope in the game. I'd say get rid of it completely. It is way too high and way too hard to navigate around. I've fallen off of this thing more times than I can count, and honestly, it's just a huge distraction on the track. The big kangaroo monster makes a bit more sense in this map, but I'm not sure why they decided to drag it into the other maps as well. But this one is fine, it can stay. And see, that's kind of all you need. Keep the boomerang, get rid of the slope, keep the kangaroo. You don't need to pack so much shit into a map. Get rid of the random lava spurts, get rid of the random meteors, get rid of that giant monkey, get rid of the AT&T walker, and you would have yourself a decent map. Now from here on out, I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I don't want to spend too much time on each track. I'm just going to stop for the important ones. A lot of the later tracks also tend to kind of blur together and become less and less unique, so they're not worth spending a lot of time on. Bahrain? I'm not sure how to pronounce this one. Another map I think has a lot of potential if you just got rid of some of the excess stuff. Keep the giant hammers, I think they're actually pretty unique. They can't actually hit you unless you use the ramp, so there's a good trade-off for using the ramp to speed yourself up. Keep the random fog that comes in, it gives the track some flavor, but get rid of the slope. It is very distracting and doesn't really work well on this map. Also get rid of a giant jet fighter. Russia, another really bad slope that should be removed, but I don't mind the hot air balloon throwing bombs at you, so we can keep that. Everything else, get rid of it. Malaysia, first slope is really bad, get rid of it, but keep the giant twirly hammers, I think, to add a lot of flavor to this map. There is a more unique slant here that lets you take a really cool shortcut to soar over other people. I think this one is nice, keep it in, get rid of everything else. China. Another map with too much shit going on. Keep the lanterns, but stop them from falling on the track. It's really distracting. And the first ramp is also probably one of the worst in the entire game. This thing is really janky as fuck and in a really bad spot. But I don't really mind the second ramp. I think that one should stay. Get rid of everything else. Monaco. To be honest, this is probably one of the best maps in the entire game, but I would still tweak it a little bit. I think the giant tentacles really fit with this map, seeing how there's a giant squid in the background. But honestly, besides the tentacles, everything else should be removed. Azerbaijan. This beginning curve here is really awful, please get rid of it. But honestly, there isn't much else to complain about, so just get rid of everything else. Austria. I do actually like the giant red bull in the middle of this stage, it really fits the theme of the map. Just get rid of all the other map hazards and you've got a good map. England. The first little hill here is actually really nice and I think it should stay. And the little floating cloud that zaps people is actually a good fit for the map. But the second little hill should definitely go away, it's too much. And like I keep saying, get rid of everything else. Germany. The first little raised area is pure garbage, you should definitely get rid of it. But do keep the giant German beer-wielding sausage, I think it's hilarious. The last little curved area right here should definitely stay. That's a nice little shortcut just like on the other map. Hungary. Honestly, this map would be better if it's just completely flat. Get rid of all the slopes, get rid of all map hazards. Just keep this map a flat, standard track map. Belgium. Keep the giant chocolate background and keep the hands throwing chocolate at you. Get rid of everything else. Italy. Keep the giant pizza and keep the hands throwing olives at you. Also keep this little slant shortcut here, it's really well implemented. Singapore. Keep this little shortcut ramp, keep the giant Ferris wheel. Japan. For once, I'm going to suggest you add something. I think there should be a ramp right here so you can jump over this entire little section. I think it would make for a really cool shortcut. And keep the little shortcut ramp here on the side. It's really good. United States. Put a giant screen or poster here with arrows pointing to the left. It's really bizarre coming up on a hill and immediately having to take a left turn without warning. Maybe consider putting another ramp right here to skip over the river. The ground cracking here on the floor is also not too bad. I think that one could also stay in. Mexico. Kinda mixed about the first ramp, but I think it's better if you get rid of it. This map makes a little bit more sense for it to have the skeleton hands, so I think they should stay in. Brazil. Another decent map. Keep the little shortcut ramp in the beginning. Everything else needs to go. Canada. First little ramp needs to go, but the shortcut ramp can stay. So, there we go. That's all the maps. As you can tell, a lot of ramps I think are really necessary, but the ones that I said should stay, I think should stay there permanently, instead of being on a timer. A lot of the more unique elements, like certain countries having unique mascots on them, I think can stay. I just think it's annoying when they're on other maps. All the other random events, I'm pretty mixed about, and I ultimately think the game would be better without them. Now, real quick, let's go over some notable items. I'm not going to go over all of them like I did on the maps, because a lot of the issues with them are more fundamental than the maps. So, real quick, ice block. Keep its mechanics the way they are, but make it much, much smaller. For chicken, make it into a much smaller projectile and have it stun instead of flatten whoever it hits. It should also disappear once it hits someone. Banana, have it actually stay where you throw it and have it stay upright. Other than that, I don't have too much of a problem with some of the mixed ones, but they will probably need some changes because we're changing some of the ingredient items, as I like to call them. That was a lot of work. But you know me, we're not done yet. There's one final thing I have to address, and that is the multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer confuses me because connecting to people seems to work fine enough, but it's everything else that bothers me. First of all, you're able to set how many players you want maximum in your lobby. However, this does not work. No matter what number you select, you will always start a match with 8 players. Why does this happen? I don't know. Second of all, you have no idea of knowing when someone has actually joined you. There's no pop-up, no nothing. You will not know if someone has actually joined your lobby until you get into a Discord call with them and have them tell you that they're online. Third, when selecting what tracks to play, you're allowed to select up to 4 maps. However, the game does not actually follow through on this and will kick you back to the main menu after having played only a single round. So don't bother entering more than one, it will not work anyways. Fourth, instead of just starting the race, you are immediately put into a warm-up mode, where all 8 players drive around in a circle until a timer hits 0, and then you're allowed to actually race. And no, you cannot skip this in any way, shape, or form. Fifth, as I said before, every time you complete a single race, it will kick you both back to the main menu, meaning you have to reconnect every single time if you want to play another round. So, yeah. This game is a bit of a mess. Okay, that's a bit of a lie. It's a big mess. But the reason I made this is because I think that this game does have some potential. It really just seems like no one was there at the office to tell them when to reel something in, when to let off the gas pedal. Stop adding so much to your maps in order to be unique. And honestly, that's it. If somehow the developers of this game do end up watching this video, I do want to say I have no hard feelings towards you guys. I do truly mean it when I say I did have some fun playing this game. It's just there's so many issues currently that I can't recommend this to anyone. And I hope I showed you today why I think so. Anyways, that's it for me from now. As you can imagine, I kind of need a break after all this. If you like what you saw, subscribe, like, whatever, I don't care. See you guys whenever I upload next.
Johnny Horny Man.
Wait, what did you say? Johnny Horny?
Johnny Horny Man.
Are you just saying random names now?
No, I'm not actually.
What? Is that like the name of one of the racers?
Yep.
Johnny Horny Man.
Johnny Horny Man.
I don't believe you. I have a hard time believing you.